Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is Friday, the 4th of November 2022. These are the stories that we will be discussing in detail during the course of the show. We will begin with the very important Cop27, the Conference of the Parties, the 27th edition of the Conference of the Parties that is being held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt starting from the 6th of this month. Our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif will be representing Pakistan, and also he will be the Vice Chairperson of Cop27 because of what Pakistan has gone through and how he can adequately represent what climate change means for his country, that is our country, and also for the developing world. There is a growing demand for the developed world to help those countries that are in need, especially those who've been affected by climate change, especially countries such as Pakistan. Will the world react? Because there are a lot of questions that emanate as to what will be the future of Cop27, because all depends on how the world gets together and reacts and helps the countries that are in need. So, of course, all eyes are right now on Cop27. That is going to be our first story. Our second story of the day concerns the relationship between the People's Republic of China and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. And of course, following the extremely successful visit of our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab along with his entourage of ministers and other assistants who were there, there were a lot of important commonalities that were thought about, viewed, a lot of MOUs that were signed as well. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian also said leaders of the two countries had an in-depth exchange of views on bilateral relations as well as regional and international situation. He also talked about the cooperative strategic partnership between China and Pakistan that he said is of great importance. This is going to be our second segment. The importance of the relationship, whether it be the friendly, the cooperative or the geostrategic between Pakistan and China. Then we'll be talking about the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, we know it better as UNICEF, has said on Thursday that schools for more than 2 million children in Pakistan, I repeat 2 million children in Pakistan, remain inaccessible because of severe flooding that has destroyed 27,000 schools in the country. That was said by UNICEF's Global Director for Education, Robert Jenkins, who was here in Pakistan and now has returned to New York. On returning to New York, he said this about the state of affairs as far as the children of Pakistan and their access to education is concerned. Then we'll be talking about Israeli fighter jets, ladies and gentlemen, that have launched several air attacks in the blockaded Gaza Strip, leading to a power outage in some areas. And of course, we all know how the Israeli authorities and the Israeli forces have been ravaging Palestine, not since now, but since quite some time. And Gaza is one of the main areas where that is being targeted by the Israelis. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns Cop27, the Conference of the Parties, the 27th edition of which is being held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt starting from the 6th of November. It's going to be a very important mood for the future of climate change, for the future of the developing countries, for those countries who've been affected by climate change. Pakistan is going to be the co-chair of Cop27, and our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif will be attending it from Pakistan's side. More in the following report.
This year's UN Climate Conference set for November 6 to 18 will close out another year marked by record-breaking floods, deadly heat waves and other extreme weather events. Representatives gathering in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt for the 27th Conference of Parties, COP27 are unlikely to make significant new pledges. Instead, COP27 is expected to focus on whether countries are following through on commitments made last year. At the end of COP26, all countries agreed to come to this year's conference with more ambitious climate plans. But since then, only 24 countries have newly submitted or updated their targets, which are known as nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. The unavoidable consequences of climate change, such as the loss of people's lives due to extreme weather events, infrastructure damage, or the disappearance of coastal communities due to sea level rise, exhibit that the developing world is disproportionately suffering these damages. In the wake of this year's monsoon flooding of biblical proportions, which displaced millions and washed out infrastructure, calls for climate justice by Pakistan at international forums have grown. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif would be vice chairperson for COP27 after his advocacy for an urgent climate action plan, and Pakistan received the honor from among the 193 countries of UN as a result of the active voice raised by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif at global and regional forums about climate crisis and the necessity of action.
Now, to discuss more on the very important issue of climate change in the context of COP27, we've been joined by Sarmad Iqbal. He's an environmental lawyer and also a representative of Islamic Relief. Sarmad Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Sarmad, COP27 starts from Monday. in fact from the 6th. Our Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif Saab represents Pakistan. He's also the co-chair of COP27. Pakistan has gone through a lot following the devastating floods for no fault of Pakistan that emits less than 1% of carbon emission. The countries that are responsible for it had pledged a lot in COP26, but we didn't see the results of that in forms of action. Do you feel COP27 will change that?
Well, COP was basically developed to help out the countries who have been affected by the impacts of climate change, and it was a forum where dialogues and discussions could take place in a concentrated manner. The co-hosts and hosts of COP have always been trying to raise the profile of impacts, devastation across the globe, and pushing countries to actually not just pledge but deliver the aid, the much required aid, and it could be in the shape of damages to the countries for the stuff they didn't do, for the stuff the developing countries are doing, but the impact is being faced by the least developed or middle income countries. Now, having said that, there have been many pledges, but the reality of the situation is that pledges haven't materialized. There was a Green Climate Fund established post COP22, I think, or 23, but that has failed to deliver because of the lesser amount of funds being put into that kitty. So that in that paradigm, yes, it hasn't delivered, but we are hopeful that this COP, the previous 26 one and this 27 one, is going to be more powerful with regards to huge advocacy efforts by the least developing countries or affected countries, and Pakistan is one of them. Pakistan, Nigeria, Philippines, it's been, you name the country and the impacts are there, and less than a month, all these countries have faced floods, cyclones, devastations in other forms, and huge displacements.
All right. Sarmad Saab, what is at stake as far as COP27 is concerned?
What is at stake? I would say in the international arena, the reputation of COP is at stake if it doesn't materialize.
Really, is that important?
That's important. The other thing is, the pledges, if they don't materialize, it's going to end up just being a symbolic forum, which is where we go, speak about issues, and does not materialize into actions. The third thing, loss and damage has been topping the charts in the last COP. And this COP, there are examples, and Pakistan is topping that chart. Pakistan has 33 million people who were who were impacted by it. As the UNICEF report came out, 27,000, 30,000 schools have been disrupted or damaged.
Then the health establishments that have been disrupted, the mothers who don't have access, who are pregnant, the children who do not have access to proper food or clean water, sanitation issues, diseases, and so on and so forth. And the restructuring, that is something that we are looking forward to in order to build a more resilient Pakistan.
For this, and going back to the question of what's at stake, if we look at Pakistan, the lives of these 33 million people, plus million people, are at stake. That's the biggest thing in terms of the delegation that is going from Pakistan, and the great efforts and advocacy of the PM, the Foreign Minister, the Minister for Climate Change, has already played great role, but it's more required at COP in order to materialize projects, programs to be funded for Pakistan in terms of rebuilding, and loss and damage is the prime agenda.
Loss and damage, when you talk about it, the whole, our thoughts go directly to the major carbon emitters, because it is because of them that what has, for example, we just take one example, what has happened in Pakistan is because of the major carbon emitters. Do you feel that they are serious in order to reduce their carbon emission? It had been pledged last year. Do you feel this year those pledges will somehow take some form of action, tangible action?
Well, at the last COP, the agenda of loss and damage was very high. And the culminated results of or outcomes of that COP discussion was basically around pledging more money and providing finances to the countries. However, 3 of the major emitters converted this agenda of financing into dialogue and discussion to discuss how this pledge would be made in the next 3 years. So which means 3 more COPs to go. So
isn't this some means of stalling the whole issue of climate change?
Well,
efforts to move forward to tackle climate change?
Well, whenever there are people who are accepting certain phenomena, there are definitely bound to be deniers. And we have huge number of deniers in the world as well. They're denying the fact that climate change exists. They're denying the fact that climate change havocs have been caused by the emitters. They're denying the fact that they are the major polluters. They're denying the fact that they have a role to play while bringing back this globe into a place which is livable. So that denying or that denier impact or denial impact is going to be impacting the world because they're not going to be seriously acting on their commitments.
But do you feel whatever the lack of commitment from the major countries that are also the major carbon emitters is because the world is also engulfed in other issues, regional or strategic, including the Russia-Ukraine war, including the food insecurity issue and so on and so forth?
Well, all regional issues as compared to climate change issues should be a secondary issue because if climate
But does the world realize that? That is the main question. Is the world realizing that, or have they prioritized these issues over issues such as climate change?
The issue is that the countries who are suffering the brunt of climate change should be more vocal, should be setting the global agenda in terms of the climate impacts, because regional wars, regional issues, regional challenges are somewhat at the very lower level. And if climate change steps into the countries, which it has in countries like Pakistan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, but it has also stepped into UK, the heat waves,
even the United States,
the US, wildfires, and a lot more in Canada even, their coldest regions suffering from heat waves. So this is stepping in and we cannot hide from it unless and until we start doing something for it.
When you talk of doing something for it, Pakistan has been quite adamant as far as the world taking responsibility for climate change and the effects of climate change is concerned. Our Prime Minister is going, he's going to be the Vice Co-Chair of Cop27 as well. What do you feel, in your point of view, will Pakistan's agenda be?
Pakistan's agenda is loss and damage. This is their only agenda. However, there are other agenda points with regards to programs, bilateral fundings, fuel emissions, carbon emissions, fuel efficiency, and others and others. And there are many working groups where our technical people are part of. However, at the political forum, as the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, the Minister for Climate Change, where they sit, they should be talking about, and they will be talking about, loss and damage and Pakistan as a case study. I'm sure they would be presenting our case study or our impacts at those forums in a way where people can realize how these things are making lives of people very difficult.
When you talk of loss and damage, finance and loss and damage, that was also discussed in the last COP. It brings to mind climate justice, something that our government has been emphasizing, whether it be our Prime Minister or our Foreign Minister. Will the world realize how important climate justice is?
Well, you know, the issue of climate change has been there, but the realization or this massive
it's somehow not coming. I don't know, until it happens in your household. I mean, I'm talking of the countries that are major carbon emitters. They won't do anything. I don't know, I have this feeling that this is what's going to happen.
Well, when your house is on fire, then you realize what the impact of fire is. And having said that, unless and until you realize the gravity of the situation, or you try to plan ahead for these situations, that is when you can say it's not going to impact us. But this climate havoc or climate change impacts, they're unpredictable. So whatever you plan, it's not going to work. And that is what we should be scared of. How many people, which part of the world, where do we go, where do we save ourselves? Those are some questions that need to be addressed. And today it's Pakistan.
Tomorrow it could be any country, you know, any country in the West, any country in the East. It could be India, it could be Bangladesh, it could be any other country. What needs to be done is that the world comes together as one, Sarmad, this is my point of view, and tackles all the issues concerning climate change, whether it be carbon emission, whether it be resilience of the countries that are impacted by climate change, and from there on, there are a lot of sub-factors that come up. Finance has been a long time an issue as far as climate talks are concerned. There have been a lot of money that has been pledged in previous COPs, but never delivered. Climate climate finance chart, including estimated data from 2021-2022, is still very unclear. It has not been, implemented upon. The target that was talked about in last COPs was missed, and now it has moved to 2023. Is this a cycle that is going to go on? Is this a vicious cycle now?
It is a vicious cycle. And now the power of advocacy needs to come in. The power of voice needs to come in. The power of case study needs to come in to show the world that what the impact looks like, how it's going to multiply in future. At the same time, when we talk about finances, there are many mediums of providing support to countries which are affected by climate change or which have been impacted by climate change, and one of them is debt justice. So waive off or transform the debts of those countries into climate programs. That's the only easiest solution right now, and the countries who are the major polluters can actually do that, but there's a politics behind it.
But the solutions seem easy on paper. The solutions seem easy when we discuss, the both of us. When it comes to implementation, the whole question mark, in my point of view, is on the implementation and the resolve of the countries, the major carbon emitters and the countries of the West that need to put in their all feet forward in order to help those countries in need. That is where the question mark arises, whether that will happen or not.
Well, major donors have pledged foreign aid for the last couple of years.
Pledged, again. Yes, pledged. The key word is pledged.
Yes, and for the past 2-3 years, they have pledged foreign aid but used that money for their domestic programs, which means that there was a cut in foreign aid as well at the same time. So countries like Pakistan saw reduced foreign aid coming into the country. And at the same time, when there is least foreign aid, what are the means of getting programs, bilateral programs, funding for resilient programs in the country? It reduces down, it shrinks down. Pakistan.
Are there any alternative solutions in your point of view?
We do have alternative solutions. We need to look into our pocket first. We have a lot of money that could be used internally. However, we need to redesign the whole paradigm of.
So where does that leave the COP then? If we have to look inwards, where does that leave COP? What is the efficacy of COP?
Well, as you've seen public-private partnership models, you have to put in something. So if you have something in your pocket, you can extend that and then pledge, get the money from external donors or bilateral donors for these initiatives.
Now, there are 3 main areas as far as COP27 is concerned: reducing emissions, helping countries to prepare for and deal with climate change, and securing technical support and funding for developing countries for the above. So I think the most important becomes funding to help those countries who are in need, and helping them deal with climate change. Nothing can happen without proper financing. So it all boils down to the financing. How can developing countries like Pakistan pressurize or influence or make the important countries realize how important it is to fund for climate change, to fund for those countries who have been affected by climate change, so that the future of the world could be more secure?
Well, forums like COP gives us an opportunity to do that. And our foreign relations, foreign diplomacy and climate diplomacy, as I call it, needs to happen at that forum. It's a forum where we actually have sleepless nights to discuss the impacts, to discuss the possible outcomes, discuss way forward. We need to be serious in terms of how do we move forward.
Pakistan is very serious, to be very frank. It's the countries that are the major emitters that need to be serious. This is my take on that. And I hope you agree with it.
Well, I am 100% with you on that. Pakistan is very serious, and with this current impact, Pakistan should be looking more serious than ever before.
Of course, and the efforts that Pakistan has been making, the strides that it has been making on the regional or on the international front are quite laudable, and that is what we need to highlight as well. Thank you so very much, Sarmad Saab, to have joined us. Sarmad Iqbal, environmental lawyer, representative for Islamic Relief, to have talked about COP27, climate change, the importance of it all, and also the realization that needs to come on the countries that are the major carbon emitters to help those that are in need, countries that could be in danger, the countries that are in danger, countries that have gone through devastating effects of climate change for no fault of their own, like Pakistan. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Let's come to our second story, and that concerns the time-tested iron-bound, ironclad relationship between the People's Republic of China and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. It has seen only highs and never any lows. And recently, our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Sahab was one of the first Pakistan leaders to have been invited to China after Xi Jinping, the President of China, was elected for a third consecutive time after the 20th CPC. A lot of important discussions were made during this important visit. A lot of MOUs were signed during this important visit. A lot of realizations were made also during this important visit on how to take this strong relationship forward. And this was also what was highlighted by the Foreign Office spokesperson of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Zhao Lijian. Let's hear a bit of what he had to say.
Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif paid an official visit to China upon invitation from November the 1st to the 2nd. It was his first visit to China after taking office. It is Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is also the first foreign head of government to visit China after the 20th National Congress of the CPC. China attached great importance and accorded him with high-level reception. It was the second meeting between President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Sharif in less than 2 months. It offered strategic guidance for the development of our bilateral relations and demonstrates the uniqueness of our high-level all-weather strategic cooperative partnership. During the visit, the two sides signed a joint statement and signed 21 cooperation documents.
Now, 21 cooperation documents that were signed, and of course an emphasis on the deep and strong strategic partnership and relationship that exists between the People's Republic of China and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, that was also highlighted during this recent visit of our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Sahab to the People's Republic of China. Pakistan and China are two brothers, are two friends that have always been there for each other in the good times, in the bad times, have always supported each other. China has always supported Pakistan when Pakistan needed it, whether it be in the FATF times, and now Pakistan, alhamdulillah, is out of the grey list and is back to business. That and more was discussed during the visit also of Shehbaz Sharif Sahab to China, and this visit has only strengthened the relationship between both the countries. More in the following report.
China-Pakistan relations have enjoyed a strong historical foundation and have withstood vicissitudes of international upheavals and vagaries of domestic changes. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif embarked on his first official visit to China since taking office in April, and he was among the first foreign leaders to visit China after 20th National Congress of Communist Party of China. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian said during the visit, leaders of the two countries had an in-depth exchange of views on bilateral relations as well as regional and international situations. China expresses a warm welcome and looked forward to further promoting high-level strategic cooperation with Pakistan, including the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. As a flagship project of Belt and Road Initiative, the CPEC has become a landmark in China-Pakistan cooperation, which has strongly contributed to Pakistan's economic development and the improvement of livelihoods. CPEC revitalization was key outcome of Prime Minister China visit, and CPEC's next phase of high-quality development will encompass key areas such as industry, energy, agriculture, ICT, rail and road network, and developing Gwadar port as a hub of trade and transshipment, investment and regional connectivity. Facing a highly uncertain world, Sino-Pak axes stand on the right side of history.
Now, to discuss the important relationship between the People's Republic of China and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and of course the time-tested relationship and friendship that exists between our two countries, that has further been solidified and strengthened by the visit of Shehbaz Sharif Sahab to China. We've been joined by Dr. Tasawar Hussain. He's an expert in international politics. Tasawar, it's a pleasure to have you in the studios after a very long time. Shehbaz Sharif Sahab was in China. We saw the important meetings that were held. We saw how the Chinese media and the Chinese Foreign Ministry also lapped it up, highlighted it on every day of the visit of Shehbaz Sharif Sahab. Our Premier also spoke during an interview with Xinhua in Beijing and said that Pakistan will work with China to promote a shared destiny of achievements and progress and foster peace and harmony in the region and the world in large. How important are statements such as these? How important is the relationship between Pakistan and China?
Thank you very much for your invitation. I believe that the relationship between Pakistan and China is grounded in common values and common interests, and that's how this relationship leads to the common destiny. So what are those values and what are those interests? So values are very simple, and that's about uplifting the people. So it's more about providing basic needs to the people of Pakistan and of course people of China, and to provide their basic rights. So that is somehow grounded in humanity.
True.
And in terms of interests, both countries want to make progress, and that progress is not sort of against any other state. And the progress is in favor of their, not only in favor of their own countries, that is economic progress, but also in favor of the whole world. And that's where we see this whole project of BRI.
And the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, that is a big part of this. Speaking of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, I will refer to what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said, and he said that both China and Pakistan agreed to share development opportunities and promote construction of the CPEC more efficiently. How can we make a project like CPEC more efficient in your point of view?
I think that there are certain issues which this flagship project has confronted in the past, and we can actually look at them keeping in view different layers which are there in practice. For instance, when we talk about the global side of it, then we know that the whole world has witnessed pandemic, that is COVID-19, and that has actually slowed down this whole process.
That is true.
And then the stagnation also came from, sort of political instability in Pakistan.
Okay.
The political instability is, of course, the biggest challenge which we face, and also our partner countries like China. They also feel it, because when it comes to investment, then they need to calculate whether it will go in
stable environment Tasawar is very
important,
important, and that is what the current government is also trying to achieve and go for, a stable environment, so that the stakeholders come and invest in Pakistan, and of course whether that includes the Chinese investors or other investors as well. Now I'd refer to also what the Chinese ministry spokesperson said. He said Pakistan has responded positively to the Global Development Initiative and Global Security Initiative that was put forward by China. There are two important aspects to it, the Global Development Initiative and the Global Security Initiative. Would you like to highlight the salient features of the both?
Yes, of course. I believe that when it comes to global development, we all know to some extent that it is not only the vision of China, but it's also the global vision that is reflected in this Sustainable Development Goals project. So this is not the Chinese project. Actually, it's a global project.
True.
So we take it in positive light. So when it comes to all these projects, but there are countries in this world, those who are not that positive when it comes to Pakistan-China relations, and specifically we know the case of India. So regional factors are also there, and somehow global factors are also there, and somehow political factors are also there.
But despite all those factors that you've just highlighted, the fact remains that Pakistan and China and their relationship has remained steadfast, has remained strong, has withstood all the challenges that you've just talked about. I'd again refer to a statement by the Foreign Office spokesperson of the People's Republic of China. He said, in the face of endless global challenges that you've highlighted, the cooperative strategic partnership between China and Pakistan is of great significance. There are different how should I say, angles to the strategic partnership that exists between Pakistan and China. What, in your point of view, are the most important ones?
I think when it comes to the strategic side of it, we can actually strategize different goals in different ways. Now it all depends what are there in the threshold. So when it comes to strategizing something, it all depends whether you strategize in terms of your economic goals. You want to strategize in terms of your cultural goals. You want to strategize in terms of your political goals, or you want to strategize in terms of your say world order as your goal. So in terms of China, we say we can witness from history, we can observe from present that China has no vicious sort of goals, and whatever they are strategizing in terms of economy, in terms of say peace, in terms of stability, that is in the benefit of the whole world. But there are countries, I would say again, those who don't see it the way we see it. They don't look at it the way Pakistan and China look at it. So their strategy is different from that of Pakistan and China's strategy when it comes to those goals. So those goals are there, they are enduring goals, but it depends at one point of time which goal you want to pursue.
That
and
is
for
so
that
true.
you strategize.
I think strategy is important, and the way both Pakistan and China have been strategizing in order to strengthen the relationship and strengthen indirectly through that strong relationship their own respective countries and their own respective challenges is of course an example that the world needs to see. The way China has also strengthened itself, has developed as a country, as a major power, is also a huge example for the world to understand from. Now let's come to climate change, Pakistan, how it was affected, and how China has always been there for Pakistan, how China was there. And even during this visit of Shehbaz Sharif Saab, China again pledged more money for the people who've been affected by the floods. In your point of view, how would you view China's assistance to Pakistan in the post-disaster relief and post-disaster reconstruction? How much can China help in the future as well as far as reconstruction is concerned, making Pakistan future-proof for any disasters that could happen?
Right. So when it comes to post-disaster management, it's a very specialized field, and there are people those who can talk better than me. I should submit that I have very humble knowledge about it, but nevertheless, when we talk about this disaster management and the issues related to reconstruction and redevelopment, it's not that difficult thing. First thing which we need to do is to think scientifically. And we need to borrow the technological advancements which are there in China. So China is not less than any other country that's there in the West. So it means that we can take, we can borrow from the experiences of countries like China, like Japan, those who have faced, catastrophe in the past, and they now are braced very well about how to, face those catastrophes. Now, when it comes to Pakistan's case is not, Pakistan-centric. And I agree with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif when he says about climate justice. And we need to keep in mind that these, disasters will keep coming again and again if the whole world actually take into account Pakistan's concern.
But you talked about climate justice. How, in your point of view, can China also support and advance this narrative that Pakistan has been promoting on climate justice on global fora? Cop27 is going to happen next week. Do you feel that that forum and other forum, China can support Pakistan?
Yes, of course, we need support at international level, at international organizations and at international institutions, and that's how diplomacy work. And when it comes to international community, you need to have friends, and you need to have supporters, and you need to have, lobby that favors your viewpoint. And in that, of course, China is a very powerful country, and there are countries, those who actually ally themselves with China. So in that way, China has always been a great sport, and we believe that in future, China will also, keep on with Pakistan, supporting in all of the challenges which Pakistan face. So be it environment, or be it economy, or be it this, catastrophic post, climate destruction that happened in Pakistan. So China is very much there. China, this present visit of our Prime Minister to China, I think that the whole thing that was related to reconstruction and redevelopment and to seek some economic support from China was also part of the whole, visit when it comes to the vital issue areas which Prime Minister was supposed to discuss there. And I believe that Chinese are, time-tested friends, and they have always been there, and they are there, and we believe that they are going to be there in future as well.
Tasawar, how do you see the efforts that have been made by the current government, by Shehbaz Sharif Saab as well, in order to further foster, develop, strengthen, shine the relationship between the two countries? How important is it for Pakistan to elaborate, to strengthen, to work on this relationship with China?
I think when it comes to leadership matters a lot. So we have witnessed previous Prime Minister of Pakistan and the government led by Imran Khan Saab, and what happened during that time period when it comes to CPEC, it actually slowed down, it stagnated. So it means that we need to first of all, we need to set our priorities.
All right.
What are our national priorities? Whether it is about, political instability, which we are into, unfortunately, to some extent, and whether we want to continue with this political instability, or our priority is economic progress, peace, stability, development, all those things which we need most. So it depends upon the vision. What is our vision? So,
but the vision of the current government is quite clear, isn't it?
I believe so. I believe that the incumbent government's vision is, crystal clear. And what do they want to do is they want to have development, progress, peace, stability. And that's not in terms of rhetoric. And we have seen it since Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government is there in office. We have seen that how tirelessly he and, Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has visited, they have visited all over the world in order to have, maybe revital Pakistan's image, to give it more power, more energy, so that our interest may be safeguarded. So previously, kind of isolationism was there.
Now you talk of safeguarding interests. Our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, while talking to Chinese media, says that Pakistan and China have a shared destiny. Would you like to highlight on that shared destiny?
Yes, I believe that shared destiny is in a way that the values are common and the interests are common. So if you look back to the history of China, so just in 80s, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s and even 90s, China was in very humble status of economy. So Chinese economy was in a very humble situation. And so is the case of Pakistan. Now that's our good luck that we are blessed with a neighbor who actually feels good about Pakistan
and cares for Pakistan.
And what do they want for us is, no negativity. What do they wish for us is the same what they wish for themselves, and that is progress, that is peace, that is stability, that is development, and that is, focus on the basic human rights. Now, when it comes to civil and political liberties, we can argue about their status when it comes to China, but civil and political liberties are at times luxuries, and something that is very basic.
Going forward from that, I'd like to understand what are the aspects that need to be worked upon from the Pakistani side as far as further strengthening this relationship is concerned, now that our Premier has gone to China, has had wonderful talks with the Chinese leadership. What now should be the onus of responsibility from Pakistan's side?
I think Pakistan needs to be very honest. And when I say that Pakistan needs to be very honest, it means that more than rhetoric, we need to put more on practice.
All right.
Right, more on actions. And when it comes to actions, there are certain stakeholders which are there. And we have, individual level stakeholders, we have societal level stakeholders, and we have stakeholders at institutional level. So we all need to sit together, and we need to visualize what really we want. If we want to make progress, time, we have wasted a lot of time, and nothing more is more important than that of visualizing what really we want now.
I think what we want, what I understand from it all, is that Pakistan wants to strengthen itself on the economic front, on the geostrategic front, on the political front, and on the regional front as well, as far as its relationship with important players in the country, especially the People's Republic of China is concerned. And I feel that this visit of our Premier Shehbaz Sharif Sahab was in that very vein, and I think it has gone a very in the right direction as far as making China also you said in a crystal clear manner understand Pakistan's point of view as far as its friendly neighborhood country is concerned. And let's see what the coming weeks and the coming months have in store for this important relationship, and how Pakistan will take that forward as well. We will be watching, you will be watching, and I'm sure all of Pakistan and China will also be watching. Thank you very much to have joined us, Tasawar, and that was our foreign affairs expert, Dr. Tasawar, talking to us about the relationship between Pakistan and China in the whole wake of the visit of our Premier Shehbaz Sharif Saab. With an entourage, he went to China, had a very successful round of negotiations and meetings with the Chinese leadership, and it has only strengthened the relationship between the two countries that was already extremely strong. But China understands Pakistan, and so does Pakistan understand its neighborhood country, and the resolve is to move together forward to make the region and to make this friendship stronger. Let's come to our last story, two stories, ladies and gentlemen. The first concerns the flood ravages and the report by the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. We know that more popularly as UNICEF. It has said on Thursday that schools for more than 2 million children in Pakistan have remained inaccessible because of the floods, because around 27,000 schools have been destroyed, the buildings have been destroyed. We have been talking about it time and again in our shows, about the health institutions that have been destroyed, about the schools and educational institutions that have been destroyed. The damage to infrastructure is paramount, and the reconstruction is going to take a long time, and it's going to be a very difficult effort for Pakistan to do alone. So that is why climate justice is the key word, and that the world needs to understand that Pakistan, what it is going through, is of no fault of its own. Now, the UNICEF's Global Director for Education, Robert Jenkins, was in Pakistan a few days back. He's returned now to New York. He said almost overnight, millions of Pakistan's children lost family members, their homes, safety, and their education under the most traumatic circumstances. We have heard stories from different NGOs, from UNICEF as well, on how children are malnourished, on how women are doing their level best, on how the different NGOs, the government of Pakistan, the armed forces are also striving 24/7 to help those that are in need. But all of them together alone cannot do the effort. We need the help of the United Nations. We need the help of all the important players around the world, especially those who have been the major cause of carbon emission. And now let's come to our last story, and that is Palestine and Israel. Now, Israeli fighter jets have launched several airstrikes in the blockaded Gaza Strip. Not the first time, won't be the last time, the way things are going. Attacks led to a power outage in some areas, as far as the local sources say. Among the main targets of strikes today were sites that were used by Palestinian armed resistance factions in the Maghazi refugee camp. This barbaric bombing of sites on the Gaza Strip at dawn, as per the Palestinian authorities, is a blatant act of aggression and represents an extension of its war against the Palestinian people in all the places that they exist. Now, that is very true, and that is what we have been seeing since months and years. The fact remains that atrocities such as what is happening in Palestine, in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, need to come to an end through a collective resolve of all the world players, of important organizations such as the United Nations, putting pressure on Israel and India to do the needful. That is how we can make the world a safer place, a better place to live in, and that should be the resolve, whether through Cop27 or through United Nations. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. Today is the last day of the week. We'll be seeing you, inshallah, on Monday. Stay safe, have a great weekend, and kindly do whatever you can to help those who are in need, whether it be by pledging 10 rupees, by texting on 9999, or by helping the armed forces, the government, the NGOs, the philanthropists who are helping those in need. But do help in whichever capacity you can. Allah Hafiz.